Hi, this is Sean with the Palmer Law Firm, and normally on this blog I like to talk about family law issues, divorces, custody arrangements, things of that nature, because that's what I do. That's the area of law that I practice. But I was recently contacted by somebody who had some questions about a dispute they're having with their neighbor. Now, I've noticed lately that I've been observing a lot of very harsh criticisms to our fellow neighbors on the various web posts that I follow. And I've been seeing more and more of that as as the COVID-19 pandemic has been going on. And of course, it's natural that as people are staying home, whether they're forced to or whether they voluntarily stay, either way, people are getting a little closed in feeling, and their patience is running a lot thinner than it used to be. So we're seeing a lot more, I think, of neighborhood disputes, and I'd like to address that for a moment, because as a lawyer, I can tell you from from the far extreme of things how badly things can go if they are allowed to. If disputes are allowed to move to that phase of going in front of a judge, we're talking about extreme costs, time, and stress. And so there's something here I'd like to say about trying to be a good neighbor and getting your disputes resolved with your neighbors without going to that far extreme. So the person that reached out to me was asking about a noise complaint he had against a neighbor whose dog was barking. And he had called the police several occasions and wasn't really feeling like he was getting any good relief out of that. So, so I looked up the law for our local community here, and I live and work in League City, Texas. But a lot of the city ordinances you'll find are very similar from town to town, from city to city, because a lot of these are boilerplate ordinances that are just adopted from each city. They don't really customize them too much in a lot of instances. So what I'm saying here might apply to you, but just understand that we're talking strictly about the League City Code of Ordinances, which is my community, but the laws will probably be fairly similar in your community as well. So the issue is a barking dog, so it's a nuisance noise complaint, okay? And in the League City Code of Ordinances, you'll find noise complaints under 4230 through 39, okay? That covers those regulations in terms of what is noise and what is a violation of the nuisance noise. So what the ordinance says basically is that a nuisance noise is defined as a frequent, long, continuous sound that unreasonably disturbs the or injures or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of an ordinary, reasonable person of ordinary tastes, of ordinary habits, and of ordinary modes of living who reside in the vicinity of the noise. So that's what defines what is a nuisance noise. And put on your lawyer hat for a second and understand how mishmashed all of that is and how really hard it would be to enforce that ordinance unless it's an extreme situation. Because what is an ordinary person? What's an ordinary reasonable person? People have a lot of different opinions about how much a dog can bark and at what hours a dog can bark, and and what a nuisance noise is. To disturb somebody, even that word, what does it mean to disturb an ordinary person of ordinary habits? Is a dog barking at 10 o'clock in the evening a violation? Is that a nuisance? Or is it, does it have to be earlier in the day? And what's the cutoff point? So the ordinances you'll find, and particularly, I can say about the League City ordinances, they're very squishy and open to interpretation. And that's why you're not going to get some slam dunk sort of case involving a noise violation And when a police officer comes, the first thing you do is you call the police officer. The officer is going to come, and if they do know the statute, they're going to have to try to interpret what all that means, whether to issue a citation or not. And unless it's really extreme, they're probably not going to issue a citation. They're probably going to just try to, get the neighbors to work it out. And of course, going to a barking dog complaint is probably not number one on their priority lists at any rate. So they'll get there when they can get there, I'm sure, and they'll listen to you, and they may try to work things out between you and the neighbor, but ultimately it's going to be very difficult for them to judge on the spot, on the scene, whether the noise is reasonable or not. So the complainer will probably not get a lot of satisfaction from calling the League City Police. Now, that's not to say they will never issue a citation. They may issue a citation, but what happens then is that the person goes off to municipal court, and the violation will be decided by the judge. And it's the judge who's going to decide whether it was reasonable or not reasonable. And the only evidence they're going to have is probably your testimony, so you're going to have to show up as the complaining person to resolve that issue. So, whatever evidence that you can give about it, will be taken into account, but the judge is going to have to decide. So it's really completely, it's completely up to the judge, but it's very subjective. And the fines, if they are found to have violated the noise ordinance, are very small. It's $100 to, it's starting at $100, and and it can go up with repeat offenses and things like that. But there's very little chance that you're going to get the kind of relief that you want by going through that means. So what's a person to do? If you are the person who's being kept up at night by barking dogs or what have you, you could get very frustrated about all that, and that's that's understandable, because you may call again and again and get no satisfaction whatsoever, and your frustration level may rise. Now, it can get very frustrating, and you might seem that your options are narrowed down to taking some sort of drastic and illegal action, So let me just remind you that although the noise complaints ordinances are pretty squishy, our animal cruelty laws on the state level are a lot more specific. And if you are found to have injured an animal that belongs to another person, you're facing some serious consequences. It's a Class A misdemeanor, which means a year potentially in jail and a $4,000 fee, both or one or the other or both. Or even if the facts are egregious enough, a judge may, even on the first instance, fine you with a state jail felony. And that's serious stuff. Even on your first conviction, you could get 2 to 10 years in jail and up to $10,000 fine in both. So needless to say, taking self-action is not, or self-remedy is not the way to go. Harming animals is not the way to go. They're animals, you can't, that's what they do, But on the other hand, a pet owner should be taking reasonable actions to not skirt the edge of that noise ordinance. So what relief can be found in all this? The relief is roll it all the way back. If you are having a problem with your neighbor, don't call the police first thing, okay? Don't make that your go-to action, because as I've tried to outlay to you, that's just not going to get you quick, satisfactory action, at least not right away. The thing that I recommend that you do is to be a good neighbor, be a good Texan, as we're supposed to be good neighbors, and that is go and talk to your neighbor about what is happening with their animal and how it's affecting your life. And don't just go to their door and stick a nasty note on the door saying, you better shut your animal up or blah, blah, blah. That's not the way to do it. Go and talk to them face to face and be a good neighbor. We really should know our neighbors. And in this stay-at-home world that we're in right now, there's really no excuse. We're all out there. Go and talk face to face with your neighbor and become a human being to them. They'll be much more likely to be sympathetic to your discomfort with what their animals are doing and to try to find a positive solution that works for both of you. But go and talk to your neighbor as a first set of action. Now, maybe you can't work out a solution with that neighbor, okay? After you've done a good effort to do it. There's still another solution. You can try to mediate with that neighbor. And a mediation is where a neutral person would come in and try to help both of you broker some sort of idea. They try to think of all the solutions and find out what ones are acceptable to both of you, put it down on paper, and you both sign it as an agreement, okay? You might need to resort to that, but even that's better than going right to the law, okay, which is going to get you very limited, probably, results. So try to work it out between your neighbor first. If that doesn't work, try an alternative dispute resolution method like mediation. You can find people like that online, call them up. You might be able to get it for free, or it doesn't cost that much. In the end, it's a lot better than putting up with it. And then only as an absolute last resort would you try to follow a legal means, and don't ever try to take the matters into your own hand and try some self-resolution, because it's going to get you in way more trouble than just having some missed sleep. So anyway, I hope this has been a little bit helpful for a lot of people, because calls about noise complaints are among the number one calls the League City Police gets, and they really don't need to be coming out for these kinds of issues. They should be reserving their time for more significant things to keep our communities safe. So there you go. Again, I hope this has been helpful to you, and if you need any help with anything, I'm here. We can help you out here, and just give us a call. But be good to each other. We are all in this together, although we have to still kind of stay apart and be safe, but just be good to each other, and we'll get through this, okay? Thank you.